Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to South by Southwest. Thank you. Minter Dial is founder and president of the Mindset Company, a boutique agency providing specialized services on branding and digital strategy. Renowned international speaker and prior member of the Worldwide Executive Committee of L'Oreal Professional Products Division, where he worked for 16 years in 4 countries. Minter creates bespoke executive programs designed to activate the brand strategy. He is also an author and producer of the award-winning World War II documentary, The Last Ring Home, which aired nationally in the US on PBS and in Australia on NZ on History Channel. Past non-executive board director of lastminute.com Group, he is currently board member at the ECV School in Paris. Please welcome Minter Dial.
Thank you so much for coming up this morning. How many of you guys have a hangover? All right, thanks for being honest. Got to turn the on button. Apparently that worked. That helps.
Are we better? Yay! All right.
So this morning,
It still says on. All right.
this is the way I put it in my pocket.
Maybe I need to speak down a little bit. There we go. Hello. How are you doing? Yay, thank you. All right, so this morning is going to be Futureproof your business against the next
Disruption and the next volume cut. I'm clearly not fully future-proofed. We have another battery. All right. So much
for the.
nice.
I have been known to undress before. Usually I have a tie-dye underneath, however. All right, so we're not going to go with the beautiful behind-the-shirt version. Are we good? Yay! All right, so normally I would have been here with my co-author and great friend Caleb Storkey. However, we had to make a choice, as one does. Choice is strategic, and that's a message we're going to say a couple of times, because Caleb has to go to the Best Business Book Award. We just got nominated for that, and we had to choose who was going to do what. So sorry for not having Caleb here. You're going to have to make do with just a single person. My name is Minter Dial. And as you will tell by my accent, as it will vaguely move around as the presentation goes along, I come from many places. I've actually changed countries 15 times. I've changed homes 34 times, and I only plan to have one wife. That's the, that's the limit of my changes. Hey, I'm about a third American, a third English, a third French, and a third the rest of the world. And for those of you who do maths, you can tell I'm not good at that. I'm sort of a creative type. My background, very linear, just typical. I came out of school with a degree in trilingual literature and women's studies, and I become a tennis pro, which really was the design for that. And then I work in an investment bank, Donaldson, Lufkin, and Jenrette. I got to see the 2 crashes of 87, 89, but I still came out with enough money to buy a company, a travel agency for musicians, exactly the type of thing you need to do after investment banking, and went bankrupt after 2 years. Then I went literally with my tail between my legs to work at the Philadelphia Zoo, where I lived with my mum for the first time since I was 7 years old, as a 27-year-old. I got promoted to work in the New Jersey State Aquarium. First time I've ever been promoted going this way. You know, I used to be above ground, and then I go below ground to work in the aquarium, and then finally I started to try to settle down, and I went to business school in France at Fontainebleau and INSEAD. And then I did 16 years at L'Oreal, where I had a number of functions. And one of them was running Redken, this beautiful brand for hairdressers. Earn a better living, live a better life. And the reason I wanted to tell you about that is one of the important things that I want to tell you about in future-proofing is you do need to have a purpose above and beyond making money. Because a lot of the times, really that is the differential, is when you do have a purpose. And so many companies, I would say more than 95% of companies in this world do not have a differential that is purposeful. And that is one of the keys to making your business future-proof, in my opinion. So the other thing that's important is have a constellation of partners and collaborations. You are your network. And so since I left L'Oreal, I've created a constellation of partners with whom I've worked, including NetExplo, which is an observatory of new tech trends, I work with some other consultancies. I've done my film, which is a documentary, Second World War, as was mentioned by Kyle. And my company is called Futureproof. I would be mistaken not to make sure you understand what Caleb looks like. Caleb Storkey, my great author and co-author and wonderful friend with whom I wrote this. And we told many stories. And in Futureproof, while it is a business book about new technologies, as you will see, it's a lot more about mindset and stories. So a question for you in the room. If you had to gauge yourself with your digital IQ in the room, how many of you would sit at the top end, feel like you are close to a 10 on digital IQ? You have a full understanding of everything that's going on in, oops, the hands are going down. Full understanding of everything that's going on in digital around the world. Okay, so a few less. Actually, a couple of brave souls, good on you. And if we move down sort of 7s and 8s, yeah, a lot more. And how about the other end of the scale, sort of not feeling fully aware of everything that's going on in digital? 1s and 2s, 3s, 4. All right. So I'm getting a gauge for the room. Thank you for being honest. Fact is, I think of myself as roughly around about a 7, because every day I wake up and I find something new that I don't know, and it just scares the bejeebies out of me. It's sort of a constant, ever-ending flow of trying to keep up with the tsunami of new tech innovations. So if you had to think about all the technologies, new tech going out there, how many of you feel that you are really understanding what are the most important trends in digital? Cool. Well, hopefully you can validate or push back on what I have to say, because that's what I hope to share with you over the next hour that we have together. Does anyone have any idea how many startups are going around in the world every year? How many startups are there every year happening in the world? Anyone have any ideas? Give me a number. 1 million, thank you. I got 1 million here, 1 million here, 1 million going once, 1 million going twice. Oh, 2 million, 2 million, 2 million going here. Over here. Come on. Be a little bit braver. Come on. How much more? 7 million. All right, good. We're getting there. All right, anyone else? 10? 45? We're finally getting there. 60? All right, you are brave. So the answer is 100 million startups are happening around the world. Of course, these are not all new tech apps, because the store is already quite full. But this can include mom and pop stores. But these are startups that are happening around the world. So it's no wonder that we don't know everything that's going on around the world. As I say, even myself, I feel completely at odds to try to figure it all out. But I have a great network that can really help me out, because that's going to happen. That's how you understand. So the question is, who is doing this innovating? Who do you think are the major parties responsible for this innovation? Entrepreneurs, brilliant. So this is from the NetExplorer Observatory. This is only a slice. It's not the truth exactly, but they observe that 51% of these innovations are coming from startups, the entrepreneurs. Here's the interesting thing. Only 6% are coming from big business. And yet, all these big businesses, they say that one of their number one values is innovation. We are there for agility. We want the best new products. But they're having trouble to doing it. And even universities are doing a lot of amazing things, and associations, where they have their academic research, figuring out in labs how to come up with great new startups. So how many of you guys are excited by new tech? This is it's super exciting to get up every morning and deal with it, right? All right, that's cool. Only about half of you. Huh. We're at South by Southwest. All right, did I go to the wrong place? Back to Austin, Texas? All right, so how about any of you guys frightened by what's going on in new tech? Oh, about half as well. That's pretty interesting. So I bet if I asked you what excites you and what frightens you, there is a 99.9% guarantee, it's close to 100, that you will be at once frightened and excited by some of these new technologies. And the question is, what are you going to do with them? In whose hands are these technologies? Whatever it is, when you're looking at your business and you want to future-proof your business, it's going to be your mindset that will determine your outcome. And if you go in there with a positive mindset, one that understands that this is an ineluctable truth, that these new technologies are coming in, then you're going to have a much better chance at future-proofing your business. A lot of businesses I work with, they're surrounded by, and no offense to CFOs or lawyers, but they're surrounded by these people who say, don't do that. There's a worry about this. Don't do that. You might screw it up. Challenges are out there, and you, as I will show you, there are many areas we need to be careful on, specifically with regard to ethics as well. But we also need to know that we are going to fail as we move forward. So it's about learning to have the right positive mind frame when you're going out there to try to future-proof your business. Digital transformation, there's roughly 90% of all companies are doing some kind of digital transformation. And this is a number that I've seen in 2 surveys. Yet 84% of companies undergoing digital transformation are failing in their digital transformation program. PwC had the same number, 85% last year. So what's the thing that's stopping them from succeeding? Sorry? Governance, yeah, that's one big one. Culture, yeah, totally. There's a lot of soft tissues. It's not that these are unintelligent people running the business. They've read about this, but as you will see, most of them are not doing the right things. And I'm going to hopefully guide you through some of the ideas that are going to help you to even improve and succeed in your digital transformation efforts. So the reason why we have so many of these issues, I put them down to 4. We have a glut of communication, I'm going to get into that, burgeoning mistrust, a curtain that is coming down, and the speed of change. So I'm going to illustrate each of these 4 points. The first one is, anyone relate to this particular slide? Oh boy. Here's the deal. Some of you have 0, right? How many have you got like clean inbox? Woo, you guys are good. Problem is with you guys, your bosses, do they have a clean inbox? The answer is no. That's a big problem. When we have this glut of communication, when we can't get through, some of them say, oh, that's just the way it is. Well, that's not possible, because in these 13,678 messages are messages from customers, are messages about, what should we do on this new project? And they get lost. And so we're overwhelmed. We haven't taken on board, especially the older folks, on this new style of communication in companies. And we say, well, you should just send me an email, damn it. Stop stopping with this messenger stuff and SMS and WeChat and whatever. And that's our new world, so we have to get ready with the program. We have to switch our mindset and say, there isn't just one way to communicate, and communication is strategic. As Kyle said at the very beginning, I've done a documentary on World War II, and I spent a lot of time talking to military people. And it's amazing when you talk to military people, you ask them, which is more important? Your supply chain, your munitions, your food, or your communication chain? Which is the most important of all those for anyone in the military? It is systematically their communication chain, because their communication chain is what's going to help them get the munitions, the food, and the rest back up when they need it. And the same in business. We need to understand that our communication is the lifeblood of our organization. And so much as part of these new communication, new technologies, is the change in the way we communicate. And we have not switched on that gear. So we can't have this type if you want to really succeed your digital transformation. Otherwise, we get a lot of this. And along with this, a whole ton of burnout. The number of people I look at that are completely besieged by communications and are overwrought and tired. And that's a severe problem. How can you expect to have your company future-proofed when your employees are overwhelmed constantly? And the main reason for this is we haven't made strategic choices to stop doing things we don't want to do or don't need to do. We have an issue of connecting, and we have an issue of timeliness, which is one of the key problems of digital transformation projects in my experience. Second one was we have to figure out that we have a major problem. How many guys are marketers? Okay, that's about a third. How many guys executives? Just executives in other areas? All right. All right, we're in trouble. Everyone who raised your hand, we're in trouble. Here's the thing. Oops, sorry. As I was saying, We have business executives and marketers. We are sandwiching stockbrokers. We are as bad as second-hand car salesmen in terms of the trust that we come with when we interface with our customers and our employees. So we have to understand that everything we're doing and communicating, when we have our corporate hat on, the first thing they do is spray bullshit spray on us. Everything we say coming from a corporation feels like it's an institutional piece of BS. And the more we take that on board, the more we're prepared to then start being a little bit more human, a little bit more errorful, and maybe even more authentic is the word, in order to overcome this trust. All right, so this is the 19,000th iceberg you've ever run into. There's no Titanic here, but there is an issue called global warming that I wanted to raise at this point. So we've done, most of us who've been in business for a while thought that this is the way you run your business. You push your marketing, you do one-way communications. That's what I did at L'Oreal for 16 years, using the television's 30-second spot. Total control of the comms. Yet control the comms. And that really was, this manipulation of the communications. That was what was underneath that de facto. And then everything else was underneath. These things were hidden behind. This was our internal cuisine, the things, how we operated, our culture. But here's where the global warming comes in. The problem is that all that which we thought we could hide behind is now exposed. And thanks to the transparency you can get on different sites, you now see what's happening inside. And one of the things that's key is having the motivation and the integrity of your employees to have that spirit, the desire to pump and get through the change, which is actually painful in your digital transformation programs. So transparency, with the curtain is coming down. So if you are dicks inside, you will be shown outside. And we've seen a lot of that happening. So the key point here is start making sure that internally you're operating with integrity, an integrity that you're happy to have exposed to your customers and your distributors and partners. In France, I used to work there, and we had this big problem with splitting what was professional and personal. That which was personal stays at home, that's in professional, you put on your tie, and you go to work. And there was this sort of separation between them. And it happens in a lot of countries outside of France, I should say. It's just like this iceberg. This notion of this wall is coming down. And whereas when we used to be professional and everything was perfect, we were always focusing on the numbers and the performance and the stuff, anything was in this imperfect world of being personal and humor and emotion, keep that aside, no, move that away. That was always the old world. But the reality is that wall is coming down, and slowly but surely we understand that we need to be both professional and personal in work. And one of the main reasons why this is true is because we need to have our ethical backbone in place at work. And that means bringing your whole person to business. While I do wish that us to be personal and professional, of course, I'm going to make sure that a few of us don't go private, because sometimes we go overboard in that. So you need to know what the separation is between your personal and your private life. And that should be a confidence that you need to establish each for our own, because every one of us has our own limit. But we need to encourage the personal to arrive at home, to arrive at work. So the last one is, this is a type of consumer. And I worked in the beauty world, so this is going to be, excuse me for indulging myself on my beauty past. So this is your typical customer. She goes to bed and she puts on this wonderful electronic mask that is able to understand the tension in my skin as I go to bed and read my skin as the night goes along. And I'm also going to put on a little band which gives me a pulse rate to see whether I'm sleeping well and my health is good, so that when I wake up at 6:40, my bowl of personalized cosmetic cream is prepared exactly for the tension in my skin, for the weather that's about to be outside, and for the health that I have. And then, of course, I'll jump in the autonomous car, and I'll do the makeup in the car. No more having to do that as well in front of the mirror in your bathroom, or doing, in the tube in front of everybody else. And then, of course, you have lunch. And the thing about lunch, don't forget you're having a lunch, because I read in my agenda that you're having lunch with a nice chap. So I'm going to get a little squirt of a nice little fragrance that kind of guy might be interested in. And then afterwards, I'm going to go and do my workout. And of course, I'm going to understand my biometrics, understand also how that's affecting my skin. As I'm going my autonomous car back home, of course, I just punch up soothe and blow so I can get at home, which is where I want to have my massage and my blow dry, because tonight I have an important date. The guy, it's a blind date. The guy seems to be rather nice, because I want to make sure I'm really relaxed. You guys looking forward to this? I'm really relaxed and feeling good about it, but I'm not so sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my little friend, Ruby. And so Ruby's cool because I put it in my boot. And if the dinner is going poorly, medium, or very well, I have different possibilities. 1, 2, 3. And depending on which way it's going, I get either a call from help! Oh, Mr. Obama, sorry, I'm sorry. I have to leave, or have a little love potion. Anyway, thing is this. This is the future customer for some, but actually it's sort of a reality. Everything I've taken is out of the page book of what's happening today. So it's not even a projection of the future. So if you understand your customer, the challenge is, how do you interface with her in a way where she's not feeling like you're interrupting her? How many of you guys do email campaigns? All right. How many of you guys, keep your hands up, how many of you guys do email campaigns where everybody, every time they receive the email, says, oh my freaking God, thank God you sent me that email? Well, there's still one hand staying up there. We have to reconfigure our mindset. We can't just use it because it's free and we can get 2.1% open rates. What about the 97.9 of people who are off by you for sending me that bloody email yet again? So we need to get into this woman's mind at a moment where she's ready, when she wants it, in a way that's valid and useful for her. And if you're not doing that with your email campaigns, you should reconfigure it. Of course, it's unlikely you get 100% like that. But we need to be at least thinking that way, because then you might possibly do it. And until you shift your mindset, you're going to continue to look for that 2.1 to move to 2.0, till you move to 1.9, and so on. So there are 3 keys to future-proof. The first is, and it sounds really obvious, but it's so not true, is make sure you have and communicate and over-communicate a clear strategy. It's absolutely outstanding how many people have been to business school and yet don't actually have a good understanding of the strategy. Individually, maybe some of us do. But the issue is, if you ask other members of your executive team, what's the strategy? Or they'll say something different from the one that's been announced by maybe the CEO. So the issue is, make sure that your strategy is dead clear and shared by everybody in the organization. The second one is, fix the fundamentals first, and forget about these new technologies. Because if you can't execute the basics of your business, like getting your product out on time, then who cares about these new technologies? A lot of people are running around, running after the new tech, and forgetting about fidelity. The new is always good, right? Wrong. Fix the fundamentals first. And the last one is a slice of pie, because I like pie. Key lime pie? You want key lime pie? Good. All right, so this is a slice of the pie. And this is a critical component of future-proofing your business. Slice of the pie is 3 things. Promises without action are lies. And we need to get into action. And there are 3 areas where you can enact. The first is in the P, the personal space. And the thing is this, you need to individually start using these technologies. Stop just reading about it. Actually, stop just listening to people pontificating on stages. Get with the program and start using all these technologies. The second one is, think about how these technologies can be used within the company. In fact, align the way your company operates first, internally, before you start trying to figure out how you're going to use the technologies to drive your business externally. But here's the rub. The problem is, most people, most businesses, start with, how can I use this new tech to drive my business? And they start focusing on the external side. How can I reach more customers? How can I do it cheaper, faster, better? And then, as you were saying here, then we have a cultural problem. The internal systems are not aligned with the way you want to communicate externally. But the P is actually where it needs to start. As individuals, we need to take responsibility for our own understanding. And a lot of boardrooms I go into, I see CEOs who are very intelligent, who've read a lot, but believe that it's anecdotal, believe that it's below them to actually start using these technologies. This is the thing for teenagers. This is the thing for geeks. And I tell you, it has to start by using it at the very top level. We can't just be reading about it. We need to be doing it, experiencing it ourselves. And that is what the piece of the pie is. And each time in each chapter, what we do in the book is we talk about how you can start with your personal voyage, and then what you need to do internally and what you need to do externally. And I'm going to give you 2 examples as we go through. So it would be awry not to talk about some technology all the same. So there are 12 technologies that we chose to talk about. And we believe these are the 12 most disruptive forces out there. I'm going to show you what those 12 are, but the truth, so this is it. This is our like a chemistry board of all the technologies that are in there. And some of them are old, some of them are current, some of them are a little bit more projected. But the interesting thing about it is that even the ones that have been around for 10 years, these technologies need to be reviewed in a different way. Because just because the mobile's been around doesn't mean that we know how to use it today in the right way with regard to internal operations or with customers. It's a remarkable how many times at a bar I might see somebody still not figuring out where the bloody notifications are in their phone. How many of you guys, or in the train, the guy beside you going, bing, 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 bing. How can they live with that on? Well, I don't know how to turn it off. We've had this thing going for at least 10 years. You don't know where the notifications are yet? So, that's mobile. At a moment. But I use a periodic table to show these things because in the end of the day, just like in chemistry, it's about your mixture of your ingredients. The mixture of the technologies which you'll be using, because none of these really operate in isolation. So we talk about these 12 technologies, and I'm going to share with you, or do a little bit of a dive in 2 of them, because time is what it is. But I also want to tell you that I did not choose some other technologies. And so you might be surprised that we did not choose drones, or augmented reality, or virtual reality. And the reason we had to do that, we have to make a choice. And what we're looking for, the ones we think are the most disruptive. That does not mean that these technologies are not useful and have an interesting place. I'm particularly excited in how VR is going to be used to improve our empathy and training, for sure. And augmented reality is going to have certainly even a bigger future once we get over the bloody glasses or having to put through a little screen in front of us. I'm sure there are going to be ways when we get our contact lenses figured out to do the augmented reality for us. But suffice it to say that we have to make choice, and strategy is about choice. So I'm going to do a little thing because Mark Schaefer said that every session has to have a piece on AI. So I throw in a little piece on AI, but hopefully I bring you a little something that makes it a little different for you. So the fact is that AI is happening, but it's not actually happening maybe as much as we think, compared to, especially when we're in this geeky tech world. Depending on the information you read, maybe only 15% of companies are actually using proper AI. So the avenues before us are very, very large. And the type of AI they're using is generally on the left side. Very simple artificial intelligence, like chatbots. If this, then that. But it is our strong conviction that pretty much every company has an opportunity with AI. So if you have to analyze complex data or large data sets, things you need to do repetitively, or want to do predictions and insights on your customer base, you need to be quicker in the way you react, or maybe doing your decision making, or you want to personalize for your en masse to your customers. All these tasks can be done by artificial intelligence. The key with this, just like with everything else, is what are you trying to achieve and what is your strategy? Because if your strategy doesn't need to fix this, then maybe that's not what you need to be doing. But if you have an opportunity, if one of your strategic issues is the motivation of your employees who are just fit to be tied for having to do the same thing all the time, and whereas they could use their brain for other things, maybe there's an opportunity to relieve your employees and use some artificial intelligence, invest in some AI to strip out the boring stuff so that they are doing things that are more value added. And the fact is AI, of course, is touching all industries, so many industries, and the activities that are happening are extraordinary across the board. it's starting to explode. And so it is my conviction that if you're not figuring out what is AI, and you're not figuring out where AI can be useful in your company, then you're going to be behind the 8 ball and struggling. I'm going to give you a little example of an AI initiative that happened 2 years ago. It was in the beauty area as well. And of course, beauty is looking at chatbots a lot. But this particular one was the idea was to find out the most beautiful women in the world. So they said, all you need to do is upload a photograph of yourself, and then the artificial intelligence will figure out which ones are the most beautiful women. So this is the program.
The world of artificial intelligence is affecting every aspect of our daily life. The beauty industry is no exception. Today, we would like to welcome you to the first beauty contest with an all-robot jury. Robots will look at your picture taken by a standardized app and compare you with millions of others. They will evaluate the main features including symmetry, skin color, wrinkles, and many other parameters affecting our perception of your beauty and rank you within your age group, race, and gender. Be the first human to win the beauty contest judged by robots. Robot jury candidates are also welcome. Please download our mobile app and enter into this beauty contest.
So how many are prepared to enter your face? Good. Yes, sir. Good. That's good. You want to know the results? All right, so here they are. The quality of the photographs notwithstanding, there's a problem. What is the problem? Didn't work, that's true. What else is the problem? Anyone? Anyone? Sorry? They're all white. Thank you, sir. There is one Asian, but they're all white. So this is a classic case of CISO. Shit in, shit out. The bias that we carry around with us is what we're putting into the machine. So you can actually, this was done in Hong Kong, but done by a bunch of whitos. Yeah. So in artificial intelligence, this is the pie that we have done. There are 3 actions that we give to the personal, the internal, and the external. But start with the P, please, your personal. So for example, because this is an abstract term and many of us really haven't figured out and started playing with it, get up to speed with what's going on in artificial intelligence. The suggestion I have is to go onto use Flipboard and punch in artificial intelligence as a hashtag, and you start seeing what's coming up every day. I have a list of all the interesting best people speaking about AI, because I'm not that. But the people I'm following are, and that's how I get up to date. You can invest in an AI home assistant like Alexa or Google Home, or otherwise, maybe go on to BBC's site called the BBC Robot Risk Calculator and see if your business and your job is at risk. That hopefully will wake you up and to the opportunities with AI. In the internal, within your organization, these are the 3 actions that we recommend. So find activities that could be aided by AI, as I mentioned that list we had before. And this is really critical. Align with your strategy. Figure out make sure your strategy is clear, well communicated, and then think about how AI can be applied to the strategic needs and imperatives in your organization. Make it that way around, and the chances are that you'll get the approval of your boss. Because I'm doing what you asked, sir. Sir, because usually they're men, but don't mean to be sexist, but it's sort of just an observation. Or it would be her, hopefully. And then look at maybe your decision making, because within the organization there are many, many repetitive decisions like forecasting, and you can use AI to improve and embellish your forecasting techniques, for example. And then finally, when you look externally, what can you use artificial intelligence for? Well, make sure you keep the customer in the center and focus on the customer's needs, and think about how AI can make that a more relevant experience for your customers. How can AI help gather useful insights and improve your customer interactions, like chatbots? But beware of being automated and sounding like a robot, because this pisses us off. Please, your call is really important for us. Thank you for waiting. Please, your call is really important. We have too much of that. And then maybe look also, you can, if you're an entrepreneur, look at the grants that are coming up. Since it's a really interesting area in universities and research, there are a lot of things you can do and ally with universities and maybe use their research and apply it into your business in a much cheaper way. And of course, you need to use good partners. So the thing about artificial intelligence, really, it's just at the beginning. A lot of it ain't intelligent. just opportunities to replace repetitive tasks, and it's about this choice between human and machine, not human or machine. My friend Jeremy Waite likes to say it should be IA, not AI. Think of it as an intelligent assistant, helping your human beings to do what they're best at with their creativity, their intuition, and their humanity and empathy, which today has not been solved by AI at this point. So you have this choice with AI. Do you want to replace the positions or learn how to coexist? And that's what we need to be focusing on, is how to coexist and learn to work with this AI to improve the way we work. How can AI augment your strategy? That's what the question you need to be thinking about for your organizations. All right, the second technology I wanted to go into was a space that's a little bit less common. How many of you guys are geneticists or know a lot about genomics? All right, I'm in trouble. All right, so the fact is I'm completely not a genomist, geneticist, or anything. So I really stand corrected if I make anything wrong. But the point is that this is another one of those areas where we need to get with the program, because what's happening in genomics is nothing less than super exciting and with a lot of potential impact on everybody's business. So just a quick element of genomics as opposed to genetics. So genomics is the study of the entire genome, a small part of which, only 2% of which, is the gene, which is the programming element of your genomics. And the cost of being able to decode the gene has come crashing down. So now it's extremely accessible, under $100 to be able to read your genetic code. And that's an exciting thing. How many of you guys have done, 23andMe? Well, how was your experience? Oh, not so good over there. Well, why? Right. Sort of very basic. You're like 24% here, 30% there. Well, in the end of the day, we read into what we want to read. It's very generic and at first level at this moment. But I think it's an interesting thing to do. And I think why? Because it can actually help us to think that we're all the same. And we shouldn't be thinking, I'm different from them in this world where we have a lot of divisiveness. But anyway, the point is that the cost is coming down dramatically. And there are opportunities, not just in the first level. Obviously, in the pharmaceutical area, there's a lot of opportunities to use genomics, which will go right down into the insurance. Can you imagine if you avail your genetic disposition to the insurance company, how that might change your insurance premiums once they understand that you are predisposed for a certain type of illness versus another? Then there's the security, the data of your genetics. How's that being regulated? And the ability for private investigators to use genetic coding to understand criminals and so on. There's a whole other exploration within genomics in that area. On the personal side, much like 23andMe, there are opportunities to understand who we are, maybe improve our well-being. If our genetic code could say, well, we need to de-stress a little bit, do our 10-minute meditation in the morning, Sophie. And feel better about ourselves. Maybe our genetic reading would help us understand that we need more of that in our daily life. And finally, and not least, is in business, where if I knew that my customers might want to have, let's say, emails that are much more colorful because they're genetic coding, we could understand that some people were more attuned to color and video, and other people to text and emails. I kid you not, but in marketing, people are already looking at how genetic predispositions will change the way we do our marketing. So we are far from having a law to understand what to do about that. So we need to, again, understand our ethical backbone as we go into this. Otherwise, we'll do things that may not be illegal, but may be ethically questionable. So the pie with regard to genomics, for the majority of us, it's a different topic. So how could you benefit if you had information on your own genes? What could you do with your family? What could it make you feel differently about yourself? Read up on genetic ethics and take a position on your ethics. Because right now, a lot of people are saying, oh, I'm scared of it, or I don't understand it. But you can't make a reasonable decision if you don't know enough about it. And we need to understand what is our own personal line on genomics. And maybe I suggest you use 23andMe or Ancestry DNA and take the development program with karma genes. Understand? Maybe, like anything, when someone reads your palm, it's the story that you tell yourself in the narrative that's told you. That could be the interesting thing. The signals, the symbols, can be the thing that be the most interesting takeaway. So the I for internal, how can your company benefit from shared genetic information? There's one company that went and did 23andMe for everybody in their company. It found out that everybody is coming from different places, so it was no longer about you're Pakistani and I'm an Indian, or you're from the East and I'm from the West. It was an opportunity for the company to collaborate better and share more that they are a team that comes from the world. How could you ensure responsibility and care, responsibility for the data, and make sure that you're using it in a responsible manner? And look, maybe you could have company initiatives that you could support. Maybe there's some people within your organization that are already doing it, and maybe you can support them and come and show that you like it and you're interested. And you can start making a more diverse, better diversity training or collaborative training like the one I just mentioned. And finally, externally, with regard to your customers, what's your ethical stand on DNA data? That's the first point of call. What do you, as an organization, want to stand for when it comes to this topic? Because the laws are not written, so we need to come with our own personal understanding of what we want to do and our ethics for genomics. Could genetic data enable a more meaningful communication with your customers? As soon as you understand them better, maybe you can communicate better with them. And finally, how will you protect sensitive data? Because this is about as sensitive as it gets, that along with the amount of money that I have. So those are 3 pi for genomics. Now, there are 3 more things I want to tell you in this, what's left us, and we'll get to some questions. The mindset is the key to any future-proof. This is the soft tissue. This is the culture that we're talking about. And there are 3 things. But we tend to get it backwards. I'm going to give you an acronym, CRM. Most of you are going to have an idea what that stands for. But I tell you, we got it all wrong. Actually, it's MRC. This is the acronym that I think is the future-proof mindset. So MRC stands for meaningful, responsibility, and collaboration. And these are the 3 most important mindsets that you need to have to future-proof your business, to use the new technologies, to drive it forward.
How can I protect you in this crazy world? It's all right. Yeah, it's all right. I have fallen.
We live in a crazy world, and we need to find some sense to what's going on. And that's one of the things that's going to make us get up out of bed and face the challenges and the change that we need to do. So if we can develop more meaningfulness, then we're going to have that extra energy to beat the bloody competition. So Dostoevsky said, I like my literature, the mystery of human existence lies not in just staying alive, but in finding something to live for. And sometimes we just forget about that. We get crazed for the number, short-term profitability. And we forget to know what we stand for and why we're on this earth. And while we might be talking new tech, it just strikes me that even the young are always talking about this, but I believe that we all should be seeking to inject more meaningfulness into what we're doing. The New York Times talked about moral blindness. And this is something you see more and more. And the good news is it's being outed. The people with the ethical improprieties, should we say, there are more and more of them coming out. And that's good news. But here's the thing. It's even good for business. A study that was published by the Harvard Business Review that was done over 15 years said that these are the firms of endearment. Firms of endearment are the ones which carry meaningfulness in their mission, above and beyond just making money. And the good news was that the companies that were firms of endearment had a 10.5 times better return than the companies that did not. So not only is it good for you, it's good for business. So what provides meaningfulness? Any ideas? What provides meaningfulness? Added value, sure. Anything else? Seeing your impact, seeing the results of what you're able to do, absolutely. Success in it. Anything else? Your legacy, beautiful. What you leave behind. Yeah, so the good news is, I'm not here to say that we need to be Mother Teresa. There are many ways to provide meaningfulness, from a small piece to a much bigger piece, so that we break it down into 5. And profit, having the success, being part of a successful team is meaningful. You always want to be playing for the team that wins. But you also want to be part of a team where you feel like you belong. That can provide meaningfulness. Belong in a very deeper sense than just, oh, I got a title on my card. That I feel like I share the same mission with other people on my team. That can provide meaningfulness. When we work together. When you get prizes, like pleasure, that provides meaningfulness too. It's small, but we drive pleasure out of business for the sake of greater efficiencies. And then finally, there are 2 other areas. One is purpose. What's your mission above and beyond? How are you going to make the world a better place? Why would the world be worse off if you didn't exist? And then, of course, the planet. But I only add the planet, of course, at the end, because that's what a lot of people focus on because it's sort of easy, and we get the greenwashing. But we can do a lot of other things to improve meaningfulness in our organization. There are brands that are doing amazing jobs. A lot of them typically incarnated by a CEO who founded them, whose whole life is about having this amazing legacy, as you were saying, sir. These are some of the great brands. But as Avas said, which runs this wonderful program called the Meaningful Brands Survey, 74% of people would not care if the brand disappeared. What does that make you feel for your business? Are you part of the 74 or are you part of the 26? And the thing that distinguishes the 74 from the 26% are the ones that have more meaningfulness in their core DNA. And not just a bullshit meaningfulness, one that's really led. This is Jim Stengel, who's the CMO of P&G for 8 years. He said, this is not corporate social responsibility, it's not cause marketing, and it's not a strategy for philanthropy. It's a business strategy. Once you choose your purpose, everything else should come out of that. But so many times we're running around, we don't have time to think about our brand. We don't have time to think about our purpose. We're so worried about the numbers. But if you spend some time, you invest some time to think about your purpose and how you can be more meaningful in business, then you can start using new technologies for a much greater cause that'll help you get through all the failures and the shit that comes with change. So the second mindset is responsibility. The question isn't who's going to let me. The question is who's going to stop me. We need to take personal responsibility for what we're trying to do and not delegate it out to somebody on the executive team like the CDO or the CIO or the CTO. Actually, all this stuff, it's impacting everybody in the business, and it has to start with you. Naturally, I talked about responsibility. Yes, we want to protect the planet. Yes, sure. That kind of corporate responsibility, why not? We need that. Absolutely, I'm not going to denigrate it. However, we need to take personal responsibility, and there are 4 areas where we need to take personal responsibility. The first is personal branding, obvious. This is not something you can delegate out. You need to take responsibility for your own personal branding. The second is learning. And in big business, a lot of companies, a lot of people will just delegate the learning to the Learning for Development, the LFD. But there's nobody who understands better what you need to learn than you yourself. So you need to have your own personal development plan that which you stick to. And you need to be going out and doing your own learning every day, not waiting for the Learning for Development department to create it for you. And that's part of what drives me crazy. Every morning I have to get up and learn more stuff because every day new stuff is coming into my world. You also have to have personal responsibility for cybersecurity. You cannot delegate this to the firewall or to the CTO. You are the one who's, yeah, anyone ever had this? Hey, Papa. You have to have kids for this one. Hey, Papa, I got to print out this thing for my schoolwork tomorrow. Can you take this USB to the office and print it out at the home, at the work printer? Anyone had that? Thank you for being true. And then what happens is that USB is infected, and then you the guy who infected the virus. So we have to take personal responsibility for our cybersecurity and be aware of the new phishing programs, because they're going to be coming out and they're much faster than any of these programs that we're trying to rely on to protect us. And the last one, and this is the most important one on this page, is ethics. We need to take personal responsibility for ethics. We need to educate ourselves and have a personal line. What do we stand for? Because right now, for most of these technologies, the legal department or the laws are not being written fast enough to stay up to date with what's going on. So we need to have a personal line that predicts what we think is important and how it's going to go down when it gets out that you're running your business in a non-ethical manner. We also need to create trust, especially when it comes to data, especially when it comes to personal data, genomics, and of course your money information. And then your legacy. What is the legacy you wish to leave behind? And we do not take enough time to think about that. In 20 years' time, when you're no longer running the business, what's your business doing for the world? Why is it making the place a better place? And if you can contribute one small element, that is going to help drive the brand forward when you leave. And that will be your legacy. And part of your ethical standpoint will also be part of that legacy. So the final piece is collaboration. Yes. So collaboration. You would have thought sometimes that the enemy is within your company. How many of you ever had an enormous, gigantic fallout with someone in your company? Certainly I have. Thank you for being honest. Because, I studied the Second World War in Asia Pacific, and it just struck me as bonkers. The type of infighting that went between the Navy and the Army and the Marines. Hello! We know who our enemy is, and they're internecine fighting inside. And it happens in business. So, of course, we need to collaborate internally. Yeah, duh. Silos, break them down. But actually, the more interesting thing, because that should be obvious, is we need to learn how to collaborate externally and find the right partners. So it's not just about within, but it's without your business. So Jeremiah Aoyang has this amazing thing where he shows the sharing economy or the collaborative economy. He just came out with this last year. Highly recommend taking a look at that. So this is the sharing economy, all the sharing that's going on outside of your business and how it can be working. But the point of this, within this world of so many technologies, and as I said before, these technologies don't live in isolation. And you can't possibly have all the expertises within your company. So what you're going to need to do is figure out what is your cocktail of technologies and what are the expertises you need to collaborate with in order to be able to execute. Just because we're in South by Southwest, I can find a photograph of a cocktail on a slide. So what you need to do here is think about what is your strategy and what are the technologies that you will need together in order to accomplish that strategic imperative. And then after that, think about who you need to collaborate with to bring in. So you might have to fit your strategic imperatives some AI, big data analytics, the social media data, your mobile data, your genetic coding, why not, and blockchain to make sure that the information is well stored, and all that in the cloud. So you might need this whole mixture of technologies. And do you have all these expertises within your organization? And generally speaking, the answer will probably be not. So you need to go out there and maybe look at university research centers or startups and figure out who you can collaborate with to figure out the plan, the mix that's going to make your business, your strategy work. I want to send, my last point is a little case of the Starling Bank. Anyone live in the UK? Anyone, all right, keep your hands up. Anyone have Starling? Not yet. All right, so in the UK, there's a revolution going on, and in many countries there is too, of new online banks. So the Starling Bank was founded in 2014 by Anne Bowden. They got their official banking license in 2016, and they are only an online retail and small business bank. They have only 150 customers, but they are now a full-fledged bank. And for sure, they are disrupting the business. Anne Bowden she comes from the banking industry, but she lives it as an entrepreneur. And there are a couple of things that are really interesting about the Anne Bowden case and Starling Bank, because they are for sure disrupting the business. Because they're starting in it with a purpose, and to make the customer happy. They have this mission. They don't think that banking needs to be expensive. They don't think that banking needs to be opaque and a pain in the butt. So one of her strategies has been to create an extraordinary constellation of partnerships. Because she's only 150 people in a small little bank fighting up these behemoths of banks that have been around for years. And they're very easy trying to crush anything she's doing. So she has managed to create a set of partnerships which makes her much stronger as an alliance and provides her customers with absolutely fantastic opportunities that a small little company couldn't get from the very beginning. So I have a strong collaboration. And the second point is that she is not afraid to stand for something. So Anne Bowden, this is a tweet from this morning. They're making an issue of make money equal. How many banks would get up and tweet about this kind of thing? And yet it's completely within their domain and their DNA to talk about how money is important and how money should be equal in the Me Too kind of campaign. So this is it. Are you ready to be future-proof? This is my last thing. Go alone and you may go faster. But go together and you shall go further. I hope you've enjoyed this little session. The recap here. This is MRC, meaningfulness, responsibility, and collaboration. Link everything you're doing in new tech to have behind a clear strategy. Make sure your strategy is clear and shared by everybody. And this is completely overlooked by most companies. Fix the fundamentals first, because there's no point doing it on moving sands. And finally, take your slice of the pie. Make sure you're acting on it personally, figure out the internals, and then get to the external. This is my book, Futureproof, A Lost Ring Home if you want to have a sad story, uplifting, hopeful story about the Second World War. And it's available at the bookstore, Futureproof, where I'll be doing a book signing this evening. These are my details. And we have 6 minutes left for questions. If anyone has any questions, thank you for your time. I know how it is. You don't need to stay. If you want to go, move to your next show. If you have any questions, I'll be sticking around. The question is, if we could keep it down, just for those, if you want to leave, go ahead, no worries. So what's the most thing I'm excited about? Well, I'm excited about passion, or purpose. So what excites me is when I hear a startup that's trying to do something better for the world. And then I feel like I need to give them help. So, because help these guys who are trying to do something to improve our world. That's what gets me out of bed. So it's not exactly a technology. Because afterwards, a lot of technologies excite me. I mean, I got into this book and I learned about genomics. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's amazing what we could do. It's also very scary if it's in the wrong hands. Thank you for your question. There's a mic if it helps. Oh, you're right. So just belt it out.
Okay. I live in the UK, and one of the main issues of being meaningful and purposeful, and one of the obstacles is, of course, the board of companies. So some of the meaningful brands you have there, I personally know that many of them are actually struggling with the boards because it's all about dividend to shareholders, right. Short-term purpose.
Yeah.
That's the key of myself as well.
Yeah.
The other thing they struggle with is, you said the law is not written, but actually that can be a huge problem for innovation internally.
Right.
What's your advice to this?
Right. So on the first point, you're absolutely right. Fact is that purpose doesn't necessarily lead to profits, and it can be a trouble. The good news is, I was at a panel yesterday, and there was a financier who was there, and she was saying that even the financiers are starting to look at these ESG, environmental, societal, and governance styles of companies. The key will be at some level when Wall Street and the financiers are prepared to give money to those who are actually more purpose-driven, because they then believe that that is the way to make more money.
But that has to be blocked.
Yeah, we need to figure that one out. As far as the laws are concerned, this certainly can be, if the laws come down on the wrong side of the, I believe that hopefully, lawmakers, depends on the country, are out to make our lives better. So if we have a strong ethical line, we're likely to do better. Because what they're trying to do is protect us as consumers. So that's my hope. I'm a positive person.
Hi. Just one question on the lawmaker thing that you said. Is like you said about the law is not there yet, but if you compare it to what's happening in Europe with GDPR,
Right.
that's quite a protective thing, because if you talk about genomics, you can never use it when you basically have to comply to GDPR.
Right.
So what's your stance on GDPR versus future-proof innovation?
All right, so GDPR, for example, I think that it makes a total amount of sense and should have been in existence in brands anyway. Because why the hell are we sending out emails that screw up people's spam inbox and feel that they're wasting our space? So GDPR makes a lot of sense, and as businesses, we should be thinking about how we can be more value added to our customers than screwing them up. So afterwards, yeah, of course, I'm not a lawmaker, and I don't know how it's all going to go down. But I think that if we have a strong ethical backbone, and we're out to be more valuable to our customers and to our employees, by the way, if we have our genetic opportunities, would we like it to happen to us? Would we like a company to operate that way with us? So if we can get into the shoes of the customer, and remember the customer that we are, before 9 to 5, before and after 9, then maybe we'll do better in the way we operate. Hopefully the lawmakers will see it that way too. Thank you for your question.
Yeah, I would argue the other way around, that GDPR is an opportunity, not a threat, because then you can actually share your data and you own your own data. So
Yeah.
genomics should be much easier to do with GDPR.
So you're from a viewpoint of a consumer,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, you own your data. You can share the data with the company you like,
Right.
and they can actually make that personalized thing you're talking about.
So then
so GDPR is an opportunity.
Right.
It's not
so,
a threat.
Well, it should be taken as an opportunity. If your company is thinking customer first, then hopefully GDPR is a good thing for you.
It is.
Because it's going to screw up a lot of your competition who've been doing it in a malevolent way. So good on you. Take the opportunity. Thank you for that. Anyone else have a last question? All right, listen, have a rocking day. Catch you up. I'll be doing my book signing this afternoon at 6 o'clock. I loved your attention. Thank you so much. See you.